What if the compost you spread on your flower beds last spring is the reason your hydrangeas changed color? Most gardeners treat compost like it is all the same. Bag from the garden center, shovel it on, move along. But the 7 amendments on this list do completely different things to your soil. One of them can triple root growth in a controlled test. Another has been sold for decades on claims that 3 major universities could not confirm. And one of them, the one your garden center sells by the pallet, can turn a blue hydrangea pink and kill an azalea in a single season. Not all 7 of these are compost in the strict sense. Some are amendments, some are minerals, but they all go into the soil around your flowers. And getting the wrong one in the wrong bed is the fastest way to lose a plant you spent years growing. Number 1. Worm castings. In a University of Arizona trial, plants grown in worm castings grew 3 times faster than identical plants in standard potting mix. 3 times. And unlike hot compost or synthetic fertilizer, castings carry almost no risk of burning roots. The nutrients are coated in a slow-release mucus that feeds gradually, not all at once. The pH sits right around 7, neutral, safe for nearly everything. But the real value is not the nutrients. It is the biology. A single gram of worm castings contains billions of beneficial microbes and humic acids that improve root development and water uptake. Sprinkle a 1/4 inch around the base of your dahlias in spring. Blend 10 to 20% into a container mix when you repot. And stop there. Thicker than a 1/4 inch, castings can form a crust that sheds water instead of absorbing it. More is not better. Worm castings work in weeks. The next amendment works in years, and it is worth every one of them. Number 2. Leaf mold. Reach into a pile of finished leaf mold, and it crumbles between your fingers like damp cake. Soft, spongy, almost weightless. This is not compost made by bacteria working fast and hot. Leaf mold is made by fungi, working slowly, coolly, over 1 to 2 years. The process is patient, and the result is completely different. Leaf mold adds almost no nutrients. What it adds is structure. It holds water like a sponge, loosens clay, and creates air pockets that roots need to breathe. The best leaf mold comes from oak, beech, and hornbeam leaves. Shred them with a mower before you pile them. That cuts the wait from 2 years to roughly 1. Here is what most guides get wrong. They call leaf mold strongly acidic. It is not. Most leaf mold lands between pH 6 and 7, which suits the majority of perennials. The exception is pine needle leaf mold. Pine needles start around pH 3.5 and stay acidic enough to genuinely benefit rhododendrons, azaleas, and camellias. If you want leaf mold for acid lovers, use pine needles. For everything else, oak and beech are your best material. 2 amendments in, and you have already seen bacteria and fungi doing completely different jobs in the soil. That is not a coincidence. It is the single most useful thing you can learn about feeding your garden. Before we get to number 3, there is something hiding inside every amendment on this list. A single number that decides whether your plants eat or starve. That number is pH. It measures how acidic or alkaline your soil is. The scale runs from 0 to 14, with 7 in the middle as neutral. Below 7, your soil is acidic. Above 7, alkaline. And that 1 number controls which nutrients your plants can actually reach. Below about 6.5, acid-loving plants like hydrangeas, rhododendrons, and blueberries thrive. Above 7, alkaline-tolerant plants like lavender, clematis, and peonies take over. The wrong pH does not just slow a plant down, it locks nutrients in the soil where roots cannot reach them. Every amendment you add shifts that number, and by the end of this list, you will see exactly how one shift can destroy a bed you thought you were feeding. Number 3. Finished hot compost. The trouble with hot compost is knowing when it is actually done. Half-finished compost looks dark. It smells decent. and it will rob nitrogen from every plant it touches. Here are 3 tests. First, smell it. Finished compost smells like a forest floor after rain. If it smells sour or like ammonia, it is still cooking. Second, touch it. It should be cool, crumbly, and dark, with nothing recognizable left inside. Third, grow in it. Scoop some into a pot and plant 10 lettuce seeds. If 8 or more germinate and grow healthy within a week, your compost is safe. If the seedlings yellow or die, it is still releasing acids and ammonia that will burn roots in your flower beds. Once it passes all 3 tests, spread 1 to 2 inches across your perennial beds each spring. That is it. Do not exceed 4 inches. Too much compost concentrates phosphorus and salts, which causes more problems than it solves. The pH of finished compost runs anywhere from 6.5 to 8, depending on what went into the pile. Test yours before spreading it around acid lovers. Finished compost belongs in every perennial bed, but if you grow in pots, what you need next is something else entirely. Number 4, pine bark fines. If you grow in containers, this is the amendment you have probably been missing. Pine bark fines are small particles of composted bark, about the size of a fingernail. They hold moisture, drain fast, and resist breaking down for years. That last quality is what makes them better than perlite for long-term container mixes. Perlite floats to the surface and washes out. Pine bark fines stay put. Mix 20 to 30% pine bark fines into any container. Blend for ferns, hostas, azaleas, or woodland plants. The bark is mildly acidifying, which makes it especially useful for acid-loving shrubs in pots. And unlike fresh bark mulch, fines are worked into the soil, not spread on top. If you have never tried pine bark fines, I want to hear about it. Drop your zone and what you are growing in the comments, and subscribe so you catch the full container refresh video coming later this season. The next 3 amendments are where this list gets complicated. Number 5. Bone meal. Bone meal might be the most wasted amendment in American gardens. Gardeners have been sprinkling it around roses and bulbs for generations, believing the phosphorus feeds bigger blooms. And it can, but only under one condition. Colorado State University Extension tested this directly. Phosphorus from bone meal is only available to plants in soil with a pH below 7. Above 7, calcium in the soil bonds with the phosphorus and locks it up. The bone meal sits there for months doing nothing. And across much of the West, Midwest, and anywhere the soil runs alkaline, that is exactly what happens. Before you buy a bag of bone meal, test your soil pH. If you are below 7, it is excellent for bulbs, roses, and peonies. Work about 1 tablespoon into every 2 square feet of bed. If you are above 7, save your money. One more thing. Bone meal smells like food to dogs. Ingested bone meal can cause intestinal blockage or pancreatitis. Blood meal, its nitrogen-heavy cousin, carries the risk of iron toxicity. Mix both into the soil. Never dust them on the surface. And keep the bags sealed and out of reach. Bone meal has a condition. The next one has a controversy. Number 6. Compost tea. 3 universities tested compost tea under controlled conditions. The results were not good. Oregon State Extension, citing Washington State University researcher Linda Chalker-Scott, found that aerated compost tea showed no documented effect as a disease suppressor on turf or landscape plants. None at all. Cornell, Michigan State, and Penn State ran separate trials on powdery mildew and apple scab. The tea did not outperform water. Rutgers and the Rodale Institute could not confirm the disease suppression claims either. There is also a safety concern. When you add molasses or kelp to a tea brewer to feed the microbes, you can also culture human pathogens. Oregon State Extension reported that aerated compost teas brewed with sugar additives have tested positive for E. coli and salmonella. If you love compost tea and your garden responds to it, that is your garden. But the controlled research suggests you would get the same or better results by spreading the compost directly on the soil and skipping the brewing. The compost does the work. The tea adds time, equipment, and risk. And now, the one the title warned you about. Number 7. Mushroom compost. Imagine you planted a blue hydrangea 3 years ago. Every summer it bloomed the deepest blue, exactly what the nursery tag promised. Then, this spring, the flowers came back pink. You did not change anything, or so you thought. Mushroom compost is the spent growing medium from commercial mushroom farms. It is a mix of straw, manure, and gypsum, packed with lime and chalk to keep mushroom beds alkaline. After harvest, that leftover substrate gets bagged and sold at garden centers by the pallet. It looks and feels like regular compost, but its pH runs at 7 or higher, and it carries a heavy load of soluble salts. For plants that tolerate or prefer alkaline soil, it is genuinely useful. Lavender, clematis, and peonies do well with it. But for acid-loving plants, it is a quiet disaster. Spread mushroom compost around a blue hydrangea, and the pH of the soil starts climbing. At pH 5 to 5.5, aluminum in the soil stays available, and that aluminum is what makes the flowers blue. Push the pH above 6, and the aluminum locks up. The blooms shift to purple, then pink, then stay pink. The plant is not sick. It is starving for a mineral it can no longer reach. For azaleas, rhododendrons, and camellias, the damage goes further. These plants need acidic soil to absorb iron and other micronutrients. Mushroom compost does not just shift a color. It can yellow the leaves, stunt growth, and slowly kill a shrub that was healthy for a decade. Check the label. If the bag says spent mushroom substrate or mushroom soil, keep it away from anything that needs acid soil. It is not poison. It is powerful in the right bed and devastating in the wrong one. 7 amendments. Not interchangeable. Not all compost. But now you know which one goes where. Here is how to put it all together across a year. In early spring, top dress your perennial beds with 1 to 2 inches of finished compost and blend worm castings into any container you are refreshing. In late spring, work bone meal around roses, peonies, and bulb beds, but only if your soil tests below pH 7. In fall, pile shredded oak and beech leaves into a wire cage. Come back in a year for leaf mold. And if you use mushroom compost at all, fall is the season to add it around lavender, clematis, and peony beds only. That is a full year of soil care built from 7 amendments and 1 simple rule. Know your pH before you add anything. Tell me the amendment you rely on most and the plant you would never garden without. I read every single comment. And if this changed how you think about feeding your garden, subscribe. There is a lot more coming.